If I've learned anything throughout my career, it is that the best of our intentions is not going to bring about change. We have to be intentional about doing things differently, advocating differently, applying our resources differently, and creating a better world for people who experience mental health challenges.
I push because we can do better. We can do better and we can help and support each other, and we need to have laws in place that protect our mental health just like we protect and care for our physical health. So I will continue to push and advocate for those, including myself and my child, who need help, because we all need it sometime.
What I would advise people is do what you love. Find what you're passionate about and step into that space and give all of yourself. And if you do good work where you are and you're passionate about the work that you do, good fortune will find you. I think the other thing that I would say to people, and I would say this to anyone, is that for anyone out there who is hurting, your life matters, your pain matters, and more so than anything else, we want to create a world where you can feel comfortable being who you are, loving life, and being your best self.
I advocate, and what I mean by that is I speak up, I speak out, but I try to do it in a meaningful way. I'm not trying to lecture anyone, I'm trying to affect change. And so I think in each of us, in our own way, can do that. I think we can all be change agents. I think we can all be advocates for mental health. There are a couple of things that I would recommend if someone's interested in getting started. I mean, the first thing I would say is connect with Mental Health America, connect with mental health organizations, and see what's going on. Join a coffee and conversation. It starts really with self. You know, we start advocating for self, and we learn how to do for others.
Welcome to Mental Health is Wealth, where we explore the intersection of mental well-being, your personal growth. And today we're honored to have Thad McKain with a passionate, he's an advocate for mental and physical health, for well-being, and a voice of inspiration for so many. So thank you for joining us today, Thad. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Doc. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm thrilled to be here. Very excited.
Oh man, so thrilled, so excited. I mean, we were no, and this is no joke. Caveat. So excited that last week I was so geared and ready for the interview, and we had it scheduled for a whole week later. So finally, the time is here, and I'm so glad that you came to join, so we can help spread just a little bit of information. So,
Appreciate that.
first, let's start about with your story. That what's give a little bit about your background and how you got into the connection of helping others with that.
I uh, First off, thanks again for having me, Doc. My name's Thad
Absolutely.
McKain. I have been a responder, a first responder, primarily in fire and EMS for the better part of the last 20 plus years.
Thank
I've
you.
also spent a little time. So thank you. I've also spent time as an emergency manager, and I now, in my day job now, is working with the incident management teams. We're the folks that help deploy with the wildfires, the hurricanes, other large events that need that management team that help oversee the firefighters and the first responders and everybody working on the ground. The other part of my story is that I'm also a recovering alcoholic and addict, and I've got 16 plus years now being clean and sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was unfortunately I didn't get that. I did not have just a revelation of light that hit me. I had to unfortunately hit some rock bottoms. I got in a lot of trouble. I actually was arrested and charged with unfortunately more than one DUI in my past. And one of those occurred after I had become a firefighter. I was a volunteer firefighter at the time. I unfortunately my firefighting world got put on hold. I had to go deal with my problems and my probation and all the other things. And my little brother Jason, who I was incredibly close with, he is the one that helped me find my way to sobriety. He was sober himself, and so after I got some time and got sober, I really started to learn and realize that there were a lot of first responders, firefighters, EMTs, police officers, dispatchers that, like military vets, were having a lot of problem with addiction, alcoholism, dealing with their PTSD, the
Wow.
suicide issues. I mean, here's a little fact for you. Over the last 20 years, historically, every year, more police officers die by suicide than die in the line of duty.
Mm.
There have been years that firefighters, on an average, 110 firefighters die every year on the job. All right. There have been a few years that firefighter suicides exceeded the line of duty deaths.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Mm.
this has become something that is definitely an issue amongst first responders.
It sounds like
Um,
something that needs to be paid attention to.
it definitely needs attention. And for has I've been doing my talks now for almost 12, 13 years, going to various agencies, speaking at conferences, things like that. I also speak to college kids about the addiction and alcoholism issues because my problems really started when I was a college student.
Yes.
But amongst military in the military, uh, there this is a daily thing. They are averaging 22 suicides a day, and
Wow.
that's amongst active duty and veterans.
Mm.
Okay, and that just has to be addressed. No holds barred. That's an issue. But
Absolutely.
anyway, so I got sober. I started speaking about this. It was a line of talks I created, and in the midst of all that, my little brother Jason, my best friend, we're 18 months apart. He unfortunately died in a tragic accident, and
So sorry to hear that. God bless.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It was a very serious loss for us, and he had a wife and children at the time, and um that really made me even to step back even more and really think about the impacts of my PTSD and things like that. And it came to a point that I actually had to step away for about 18, almost 20 months. I couldn't handle doing any more calls. I couldn't handle the scenes. I wasn't keeping it together very well. So I had to
Dad had to
relearn.
take care of Thad.
Thad had to take care of that, absolutely. And that was a whole other journey all its own. I had to learn so many things, all the approaches, all the things I was promoting. I was doing it, but I wasn't doing it enough. And I had to take it up a couple of levels. And I really had to get a lot of help to find my way back to doing the job and 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 getting back to life.
Well, those are some very pivotal moments to help shape a path for you. What what did you have a particular interest with doing first response or firefighting? What made you follow that path particularly?
That was something. I think every young kid, especially little boys, they see the fire trucks and all that, and they're always like, "Oh man, someday I'm going to be a firefighter. That's the coolest job in the world." And I didn't pursue it initially. I was actually 30 years old when I became a volunteer firefighter in this little community I live in Southwest Colorado, and I really
Wow.
just wanted to do it to meet people, to be involved in my community, and yeah, to get a bit of that adrenaline junkie out of my system. And I
Mm.
just ended up falling in love with it. I never meant to turn it into a career, but it
Wow.
just kind of evolved that way. I really found it. It was a knack I had. I enjoyed it. I was teaching classes, you know, one of the first ones on the truck every time it was going out the door, and yeah, I just fell in love with it and all the aspects. It was um it was just something I truly had a passion for, and I
That's
still
amazing.
I still love it. I've gotten a little older, so I don't do it as much anymore, and I've kind of stepped back from the frontline stuff, as they say. But I'm really enjoying the management side of it and getting to have that experience and getting to travel, and then with my speaking, I still get to be very engaged with a lot of folks.
And I have to say, for one, I have great respect and admiration for firefighters of any, like, first of all, any of the servicemen and women. You have to applaud them all, but firefighters have always had a great respect from me. As a kid, I was a somewhat of a pyromaniac. I loved to play with fire, and I always kind of
Yeah,
did it in a controlled manner. I never did it like on playing on carpet or anything. It would always be outside on concrete, or you know what I'm saying, in a way where I could take care of it if something went wrong. But I
yep,
always loved playing with fire. I just loved it. And I did a volunteer event once. Um, to raise money. Well, I forgot I think it was for a heart association, actually, for the Heart Foundation.
okay,
And one, what the thing was is we had to race up the highest skyscraper in St. Louis downtown, which was, I think it was something like 90. I can't remember the number of floors. I'm just going to not lie. But the most incredible part of that day, after everybody else that volunteered to do this challenge, a fire department and an entire fire department, men and women, all with all of their gear on,
yeah,
ran up that skyscraper. I didn't have anything. I had shorts and a t-shirt on, and I almost died barely jogging up those steps. And those men, it was just amazing to see that. And that equipment is like carrying two people on your shoulders. That's not
but
light work.
no, you put on the bunker gear, you put on an SCBA. If you're carrying tools and everything else, you can easily be loading, depending on the gear, 40 to 60 pounds on top of your own weight. And a
Mm,
lot of
mm, mm,
firefighters around the country do things like that, especially to honor the guys from 9/11.
mhm.
They do the stair climb events, or they do the big outdoor mountain events and things like that.
Oh,
And
wow.
so yeah, that is a tribute to the guys from 9/11.
Wow, that makes it even more amazing to me. I never
You
even thought about that. Nobody mentioned that. That's amazing to know. Thank you. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Shout out to all the
yeah, that
servicemen and
that
women.
that's to honor the 343 firefighters that died at the towers,
Mm,
along with the Port Authority and the law enforcement and everybody else that perished that day.
wow, you learn something every day. Look at there. I love it. Okay, okay. Well, a little bit more about that before we move on to some insights.
Sure.
When you begin to go down your own path of recovery or just getting better for yourself, um, especially when it comes to things with addiction or alcoholism, did you face any like? Did you feel like society was looking at you a certain way, or people like treated you differently? How did you
Oh
get
yeah.
past that part?
Oh yeah. You're in the first response world. The people that you wear that uniform with, those people become like another family for you. You've got your blood family, and then you got your fire family and your first response family. And um yeah, when I got in trouble, and I think a lot of people were very aware I had a problem, but I was doing my best to keep it very separated from my firefighting life, and wasn't doing a great job at it, but I was trying. But when I got in trouble with the law and I had gotten arrested, I had to be I was essentially suspended, I was grateful they even let me come back eventually, because
Of
there's a lot of
course.
departments you get in that kind of trouble, they don't want anything to do with you.
Right.
And a lot of folks were very outspoken. They did not really want me to come back. And while I was away and, you know, being on probation and doing all those things, I didn't hear from a lot of those folks. Funny thing was, part of my probation said I also couldn't be in any bars or around any alcohol establishments. So all of my drinking buddies weren't really reaching out to me either.
Mm.
So now I'm just isolated. I'm by myself a lot. So I was super grateful for my family. My parents were supporting me. They were they had gotten really frustrated with me too, and I absolutely deserved it. I had put them through all sorts of hell. But my little brother Jason and my other brother Adam, they were there for me regularly, and they were calling to check on me. And I had a few friends that were kind of keeping tabs on me. I did find part of my probation required I went to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And um, at first to be honest, I was just there to get my little signature on my court card and say I had attended the meeting. I really wasn't giving it a lot of time or effort.
Not trying to
But eventually,
participate in the conversations and such.
yeah, I was just, to be quite
Yeah,
honest, I was really
not here.
upset to be there. Yeah, yeah, I
I
had a
could see
chip. I
that.
had a chip on my shoulder. I had an ego,
Gotcha.
and and that little acronym of ego is you edge God out, and
Mm.
that's what I was doing. So, but I was required to go so often, and I was having to go to a lot of counseling and a lot of therapy, and I really started to listen. And one of the things that really has always stuck in my head, when I got that DUI and I had to go in front of the judge, I live in a small community. And so I was fairly known as a firefighter. you know I was also a bartender, and I was working jobs at night, so I had that side of my life, and then I had this side of being a firefighter and people seeing me in the uniform and on the trucks and in the newspaper and all that sort of thing. So that when I had to go in front of our judge, I really tried to do it up. I knew I was going to get in trouble. My BAC, my blood alcohol content, was 3 times the legal limit when I got arrested. I mean, I was drunk, and you don't get to that level without unfortunately, a lot of practice. This
Yeah.
was not an overnight problem. Okay. And I'm super grateful I didn't hurt anyone in the process, but I was bad off. But I showed up to court. I put on a shirt and tie. I had some letters of recommendation from people in the community that knew me, and I thought maybe he won't be too incredibly hard on me. And the judge is sitting there, and he's looking over my records, and he's looking at my arrest stuff and my letters of recommendation. And he goes, Mr. McKain, I got to tell you, you are a modern day Jekyll and Hyde. He goes, on one hand, you're a hero. You've helped a lot of people. On the other side of it, you have a very obvious problem, and it is rooting your life and the people around you. And that Jekyll and Hyde hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd never thought about it that way. And then, that obviously blew my whole idea of I've got this, I've got a grip on it. I'm not that bad. And he he was the one that really made me face that reality. So that
Wow.
that that was a big moment for me.
Man, amazing. Glad, like you say, that you hadn't hurt anybody throughout the process of dealing with that and stuff like those are blessings that you just don't even foresee until you get onto the other side of things. Like,
Right.
um, no matter how good you think you can drive when you're drunk, it's always a risk that you just don't assess properly.
No,
So
absolutely.
God bless you got that. Um, and hope you continue to fight that fight for yourself.
I do.
Um, I've seen it firsthand, so I know how hard it can be. And I just hope I never get to a point to where I have to go through that type of thing because, man, I don't know if I have the strength. you know, I just don't know, man.
If
It,
I hadn't had my brothers, if I hadn't had my folks and that small group of friends, I don't know that I would have either. And
mhm.
then find and for me, for a lot of people that have to get clean and sober, for me it was like I said, it was Alcoholics Anonymous. And the court ordered therapy and things like that really did help. After I lost my little brother though, that whole thing changed and I really had to take it up some notches and really learn how to maintain that sobriety. I mean,
Yeah.
losing my little brother, that was the most devastating thing that had happened in my life. I had seen a lot of people die, you know, car accidents and injuries and medical issues and things like that.
All right.
And those always suck. But to see your little brother be gone, that changed it to a whole other level.
Can only imagine. Man. All right, let's switch gears a little bit for try to I don't know, I try to dig a little bit into the mind frames and how how people can get through a lot of moments um strictly for the reasons for someone who might be dealing with the same exact thing. And I like that you brought that up about having an ego going into the Alcoholic Anonymous meet. So when it comes to going down these paths of getting help with things of trauma or addictions and any type of mental or physical help, what are some of the misconceptions that you think people need to get out of their heads and help them get to the path?
I think for a lot of folks, it is they want to shut it down. They want to lock it in a box. Okay. And, especially the old school folks that have been doing this stuff for a really long time, they just block it out. The call is done and it's time to put that in a box, put that box on the shelf and go on with life. They'll go
Mm,
have a shot, maybe a couple of beers, and that's how they're going to deal with it. Um, and some people just don't even learn to discuss it or talk about it. They just lock it down in that
lock
box.
it
And
up.
I started referring to that box as Pandora's box.
Okay.
That's my analogy I use with a lot of people. That box can only hold so much. They can only hold so many of those memories. They can only hold so many of those incidents, the things that people see and what they deal with. And
Mm,
this can go for civilians too. When I first started learning about PTSD, I was so focused on responders and vets that were dealing with it. And then I had to learn about civilians having PTSD. And at first I was like, I don't get it. What's their issue? Well, maybe it was they had a really crappy childhood. Maybe
all
there was
right.
abuse. Maybe they've dealt with an alcoholic. Maybe they've got the problems. And everybody has that box. Well, it's like I said, that box has only got so much space in it. And that box is going to break at one
Yeah.
point or another. You know, I would try and lock it down, some of the stuff I was dealing with even prior to losing my little brother. And I ended up not even realizing it. I would go work a really bad fatality scene, car accident where somebody may have died. And one of the really tricky parts about being a first responder in these small communities like where I'm at is I knew a lot of the people that perished in these accidents. I mean, I don't know how many fatality calls I've worked in my career, but I guarantee you I probably knew 40 to 50% of those folks. And they were friends of mine or they were people I knew from my community. So those hit a little harder, I think.
Mm,
My response was I would go on a 3-day bender and not
mm,
even give it a second thought that it had anything to do with it, or I just used it
right.
as my excuse. Because that's the other thing we do. Everybody with an addiction or an alcohol problem, they'll look for excuses to go use or to go drink or to go overdo it. So,
Mhm.
your boss upsets you, I'm going on a bender. You know, I got financial troubles, I'm going on a bender. My wife's mad at me, I'm going on a bender. Whatever those
And
things
I'm
are.
going to actually, I think I can give a little, well, maybe I'm wrong, but help me if I'm right here.
All right.
I think you can have good excuses also. Hell, I
Oh,
had a
hell yeah.
great day today. I'm going on the bender. Like, I
Uh,
think it, you know what I'm saying? You find any and every excuse because
oh,
it's
absolutely.
finding that
Absolutely.
excuse. Yeah,
My my birthday, that was a whole month to celebrate in my book.
they do that.
I didn't need it isolated down to a day. It was like, oh, it's December. I get to party all month.
Absolutely. They do
I'm
that.
celebrating. They do that. The trick was learning how to deal with what were excuses, learning that those are triggers. Are they going to set me off, or are they going to set me up for a good mood, or are they going to put me in a bad mood? And how am I going to deal with those? You know, After the loss of my little brother, I was in a deep dark place and I didn't know how to get out of it. I was doing my best to be there for my family and to help with my niece and nephew. I mean, his children were 6 years old. They're twins at the time when
Mm,
he passed away, and his wife is. I mean, they've been together for 20 plus years. She was devastated. So I was doing everything I could for them, but for myself,
right.
it was just a deep dark place, and I did not know. Even after getting, I was 4 or 5 years sober when he died, and I was having a very hard time trying to comprehend how to stay sober. It was everything I had been talking about for years. You know, go to the gym, do some yoga, talk to somebody, make a phone call, reach
All
out
right.
for some
Doesn't
help.
help.
But those things were really hard for me to do.
Mm,
And for me, it led to going to get therapy. I even had to get put on some medication for a while. I couldn't sleep to save my life. My fuses were running super short, and everybody pretty much knew it. So sorry if I segued there a little bit, but you know,
I don't
there
know.
there's a I tell people when I'm helping them with getting when they're first getting clean and when they're first getting sober, the first things I always recommend for them is uh, I am a big believer in yoga. I have, I get a lot of eyes rolling at me when I tell people that, but
All
even if
right.
you go
I
to the
mean, I'm
Walter Reed,
in my head. Are you just trying to look at ass? No, no.
it doesn't hurt. Um, but I did learn. I At Walter Reed Hospital, one of the big military rehab hospitals, where these guys are getting fit with new prosthetics and things like that, where they're recovering from battle injuries. They teach those guys are required to do yoga like at least once a day. It's part of their rehab. So
Wow.
I had some friends that had recommended it to me. So I started focusing on some yoga. I started focusing on things like journaling. I realized I was not very good, even with therapy. I had a hard time expressing myself. But with some practice, I learned that if I just looked at a blank page of paper and said, all right, let's talk about what's in our head right now, and started writing it out, I could fill up a couple of pages sometimes with stuff I hadn't even realized I was, you know, dwelling
Holding
on,
in. Yeah.
holding in. And
Yeah. You
then
never know.
no, you don't. And then learning about I've had some people that I've recommended maybe they need some therapy. And that's when I really get a lot of people throwing the brakes up.
Yeah.
And
Of
they're like,
course.
no, 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 I'm not going to talk to some shrink or whatever they want to call it.
Hmm.
And I was the same way. I was just very, very fortunate. I got a really great therapist and she helped me out immensely. I mean, I did the EMDR treatments. I had I agreed to medication for a little while. I really learned that eating a clean, healthy diet really helps the mindset. Drinking a lot more
Mm.
water than all the sodas and the energy drinks and all the other crap. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of soda. I love my sugar, but I definitely have had to learn how to kick that out of my world. Um, there are there's a lot of things available. You just have to be open to trying it. At least
Let
give
me
it a
ask
couple of
you.
chances.
Let me ask you about because we've been on. We actually do have a forum coming up because we've been looking at the psychedelic approach
Yeah.
to a lot of things. For you personally, do you feel like the EMDR or the medication, what one of them was more effective for you,
I think for the
or a
state I was
combination
in,
of it?
well, initially, a combination really was helpful. I do not like being on pharmaceuticals of any kind if I don't have to. I'd much
Mm,
rather
gotcha.
rely on supplements and a good diet and things like that.
Okay.
But initially, I needed both. I think the EMDR is fantastic. You mentioned the psychedelics. I do know people that are having great response with the psychedelics, even a couple of folks that are doing the ketamine treatments and things like that.
Mhm. They're big in Colorado. You're in the forefront of that. Yeah.
I am, and I know practitioners, I know clinics, I know rehab centers. Some of them are doing it, some of them are not. Um, Thankfully, by the time all of that was coming around, I kind of found my stride and I was doing good with what I had going on. So
Mhm.
I haven't really delved into those. I've read some of the studies. I've talked to some firefighters and some law enforcement. Um, some of them, they've got to really be careful with it.
Yeah.
Some agencies in some states do not allow their first responders to use that stuff. So it can vary from place to place. I've heard good
Absolutely.
stuff. I have heard some good things. I'm not gonna totally say no on it. But for me personally, uh, because your medical history and a lot of those other things do have a have a role in deciding those things.
Of course.
Um, I think I would push for clean cleaning up your diet, taking care of your health, trying some other avenues maybe. For some folks it's really extreme and that they need that extra dose. So whatever is going to work for them as long as they can control it and they are being responsible with it.
Great, great. Yeah, I definitely, absolutely. We will have more coming up on that for anybody who's been following us with that. But absolutely, anything, especially with these, what you put into your body, be very responsible. Do your research and
Yep.
make sure you get the proper assistance to
Absolutely.
go through these procedures. I want to definitely
Absolutely.
don't skip that part. So,
Yeah.
last thing. So for someone dealing with going through healing or trying to get through the pathway, what are some things that the friends and family, what are some things that we can do to help support you along the path?
I'm hoping that it gets released this year. I had the opportunity, I got invited to help out with a program that's being sponsored by the National Institute of Health and a buddy of mine by the name of Dr. Keith Haddock. And these guys focused on first responders having issues and how to get help
Mm,
and things like that. And this was actually really interesting. A couple of the things I learned in preparing for this deal, a lot, I think a lot of responders in particular, whether that be it cops, EMTs, firefighters, I think a lot of them have a hard time going home and talking to their wives or their husbands or significant others about some of the things they've seen because maybe it scares the other person. But I also think that a lot of these people have been in relationships for a long time, and they can just tell by looking at them. They
Mm.
know that face when they walk in the door from a shift. Was it a good day or was it a bad day? And I think it's just being loving and open for them. I think as the responders, you know, in our relationships, I think we need to work out. There's going to be those little times that you say, hey, you know what? It was a rough day. I need to go to the gym and work out until I can't lift my arms anymore. And I'll probably feel a lot better by the time I get home. Or I need a little space. Don't give
Right.
them too much space. Don't let them get too distant. That's the problem. The distance starts to create too many barriers. The walls get thrown up. So don't don't let that communication stop. Give them a little break if they need it, but don't shut down that communication. And let me preface this: I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor in any form. I'm just somebody with a whole lot of sobriety under my belt at this point, and I've sat and talked and dealt with helping enough folks that these are the things I've learned.
In my
Um,
book, experience goes farther than anything you can learn in a book.
well, it does, but there's always some lawyer that says, "Hey, remember to say." Um, Don't open that Pandora's
Right.
box. Um, I'm seeing a lot of fire departments and a lot of other emergency agencies. They're utilizing things like their employee assistance program, their peer
Yes.
support teams,
Good
things
stuff.
like that. And a lot of them are advocating for family gathering nights
Ah.
where maybe there's opportunities where the therapist is there or the counselors are there, and
Mm-hmm.
some of these things can be discussed.
Yeah.
Uh, when instead of the way I used to deal with it, of going on 3-day benders after a bad call, I had to learn to do some other things. I had to go learn how to journal it out, spend a little extra time in the gym, go for a run, go out in nature and do some fly fishing, go for a hike, do something that's going to clear your head so you can
All
kind of
right.
let it go. Go have that quality family time. Do those things, because this is where the suicide issues are manifesting from. These folks are locking in way too hard, and they're putting on these false fronts. They're putting
Mm.
on the good face for their family, but they're, they're hurting inside. I mean, just today on LinkedIn, there's a post about two law enforcement suicides,
Oh wow.
police officers that by all rights, they were recognized, well liked, everybody loved them, but they were not talking about whatever it was that was eating at them.
Mm.
Was it a single event? Was it an accumulation of a lot of events that were taking the toll on them? And they weren't dealing with it in whatever form or fashion. In all aspects of the emergency service world and in the military world, hell, in the civilian world, there are various suicide hotlines in every state.
Mm.
If you're
Yes.
not getting the help you need, or you recognize you see someone that's having problems, they're getting more distant, they're getting more isolated, they're they're talking in ways they don't usually talk. Maybe it is time to call and get some help for these folks. You know, um, I'll give you a really good example if I'm not taking up too much time, Doc.
Oh no, go for it.
One of the things they found after the 9/11 incident was that a lot of the firefighters, I mean, these guys, they've lost 343 brothers. This was a significant hit to FDNY, along to other neighboring departments that came and assisted. And those guys, they didn't know how to deal with it. The issue they ran into, and what they found in the studies afterwards, were that some of the guys weren't going forward to get the help they needed because they were really worried it was going to hurt their chances for promotions. It was going to be a black mark in their career. And that's a stigma we got to get away from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We
I can see where that goes to,
people
but yeah, we gotta. understand that's not a bad mark. Are you looking for help?
No, no, I think it's actually something that should be, it doesn't necessarily need to be applauded and celebrated, but I think if people are going and getting the help they need, then by all rights, that that should not be held against them. It should actually be, a pat on the back that they took that time and they stepped up to get their mental health taken care of. So,
Absolutely. So
I have, go ahead.
well, I was just going to throw up a quick thing, but if you had something else to say, you can go
No,
ahead.
no, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I thank you for bringing this point up. I feel like, I mean, for inspiring this, but I feel like I just need to put this information up for people who might be dealing with it. And I hope this is proper information. So it looks like the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So this image is cut off a little bit. Apologize for that. I just pulled this up on off the just a moment ago. So number looks to be 800-273-TALK. That's eight
Yep.
hundred 273 talk 8255. That's suicide prevention lifeline.org is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So for anybody who needs that or might need to share that with someone who's dealing with it, please do your part and just help everybody be a better person. Um,
Yeah.
lastly, I
And
want to ask, let's go ahead. Go ahead.
well, the only other thing I was going to say to that is that's a great resource to have. I've got that one programmed in my phone. Um,
Cool.
but especially for first responders, there is whatever state you are in, or in some cases,
Mm,
certain cities. If you would just your fire department, your police stations, your dispatches, they should have these numbers hung up on posters and out and about just so it's available. But or your if you've got a peer support team or an EAP, but if you just Google, you're in St. Louis, Doc. So if a firefighter or whoever goes on Missouri firefighter hotline or helpline, um, there are plenty of agencies and folks that will help have those numbers available. um, there's hotlines you can call that you're going to be talking to a firefighter that's been in that same position,
mm.
so or a cop or whoever it is, depending on what number you call. So there's a lot of resources. Don't ever think there's not help out there.
Okay, well, I have to thank you again because I like when I get inspiration from these conversations that we have on this platform. So I definitely feel like I need to be doing some things to address first responders and the connection to mental health. So I'm going to be adding that to my list of to do on this platform for one. The second thing, I feel like I need to look into volunteering to helping with suicide watch and something like that. So I'm going to look into some resources and see what organizations around here are involved in that. Maybe it might be something virtual that I have to do, but I also issued that challenge to anybody who's watching today to do your part, do a little bit of volunteering. Just volunteer 4 hours, 4 hours of your life. It can be 1 hour every weekend for the next month. Just I challenge you to take that. But you were actually hitting my last question point. So are there any other resources and tools that you would like to leave with our audience and our listeners to know to reach out for?
I can't encourage enough, and this mainly goes out to responders, but anybody can use this one. We're all so wrapped up in what's going on in our own worlds. We got all this chaos going on around us on a regular basis. Take some time to make sure you're taking care of yourself. But also, you've got your close friends, you got your family, you got people that you're in that contact with, whether they're on online forums or they're in face-to-face situations. When you're seeing someone that's maybe having a bad day or they're acting a little more withdrawn, just a real simple "how you doing" can go a really, really long way. I got folks in my world, and it's their choice. They're kind of hermits in their own right, and they kind of prefer just to be left alone. But damn, a hug goes a really long way with them from time to time. And I know
Mm.
I'm a guy saying that, but you
Hugs
know,
help.
a bro hug can go a long way. You know, and just checking in on people from time to time. One, it's going to make them feel a lot better, and you are doing the ultimate thing. You're being of service to someone else, even in a small form or fashion. Just doing a head check on folks once in a while can go a real long way. Well, for me, when I was still running on the trucks and running shifts once in a while, I thought the best time in the world to have a little check in with everybody was when we were sitting down to have dinner. Even if it was
Mhm.
10 o'clock at night after a crazy shift or a crazy call, it's just a really good opportunity to take a moment, see how everybody's doing. And vice
Right.
versa, they got to check on me. So, you know, don't don't hold up, guys. In this world, I think one of the things we all need right now is a little more kindness and a little more loving on one another, even if it's just a bro hug and a "how you doing." So
Yeah.
that's my two bits.
One of the things you said is something that someone said to me recently. I last year, I can't remember when it exactly around the time, but I made it a challenge. I kind of made it a point to myself to make sure that I speak to a stranger every day. Just hello, hi, how you doing? Just speak to a stranger every day. And someone challenged me to make that 5 strangers a day. So I've been trying to keep up. I haven't been on 5 a day. I have to admit, it hasn't been 5 every day. But I have been trying to keep that in my mind to say, to at least acknowledge 5 strangers a day, just to be just a little bit more human being, nothing
There you
wrong
go.
with that.
Goes a long way.
Absolutely. It can help someone from stop getting shot in the face. You never know.
That's probably very true too.
All right. Well,
Can't argue that.
thank you for sharing all your insights and personal stories. I feel like I'm gonna have to throw out another invite to you soon when we talk to these first responders and get some more stuff going on because you just got great stuff to say. Also, I want to touch on. I did have some shout outs to. Let me pull these up. I, I had a couple of shout outs. Something told me that I need to get on the sickle cell disease today. For some reason, it just popped into me. And so, Paulette Pie and Tabitha Shante, shout out to you too. And well wishes to your brothers who are sickle cell warriors. And anybody else out there dealing with that crazy disease, shout out to you and anyone who's supporting you. Well wishes, and we love you here. So I do have a video here of just what you need to know about sickle cell. So let's check it out and see if we can learn something that might help out our fellow man.
While sickle cell disease is the most common inherited blood disorder, adults living with this disease still face hurdles in attaining high-quality, continuous care throughout their lives. Sickle cell disease affects all racial and ethnic groups, but Black and Hispanic populations disproportionately experience challenges with access, quality, and affordability of care. Whether it's a newborn receiving a screening for sickle cell or an adult who became eligible for Medicare, we need to understand the unique health needs of people with sickle cell to better support them and help address disparities. Sickle cell disease causes the body to produce abnormally shaped red blood cells, which fail to properly deliver oxygen to body tissues. This shape change disrupts the normal flow of red blood cells through the blood vessels, causing excruciating, acute, and chronic pain episodes. Signs and symptoms vary from person to person and may change over time. Common complications include pain episodes or crises, hand-foot syndrome, acute chest syndrome, infection, eye disease, and stroke. people may need to visit outpatient or emergency departments. Like the signs and symptoms, treatment options differ for each person and can include blood transfusions, IV therapy, and pain medications. Together, we can aim to improve the quality of care delivered to patients with sickle cell disease. Visit the CMS Office of Minority Health website to learn more about sickle cell disease and how you can begin to better serve those with this disease.
All right. Well, looks like we got good information for that. Let me ask you that. During your times with first response, have you just for happened to run across anybody, or is there any training with first responders for treating people with sickle cell in any special way?
You know, it is something even for somebody like myself as an EMT versus a paramedic. We are taught how to recognize the signs and symptoms. We know
Oh,
that
wow.
what some of those treatments are. It's standard practice. You have to know that stuff to earn your license.
Oh, okay.
Um, I've only seen a few cases here in Western Colorado. I just don't see it very often, but I have come across a few. I've worked with a lot of folks that have seen a lot more of it than I have. And my understanding is, I mean, I'm sorry for anybody that has to deal with it, but it sounds like it is a vicious thing to have to deal with. So lots of love and prayers to anyone that has to deal with that, and along
Yeah,
with many other things. That's one of the things I hope they can sort out a cure for at some point.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well needed, well needed. So lastly here, mental health is wealth. You know, we like to address, well, that's my excuse for addressing physical for y'all. You know, we always try to address the mental, the physical, and the financial parts of health. That's what you get for physical this week. We're not doing any workout routines, any special um regimens into the kitchen, and none of that. You get sickle cell help this week. So you're welcome.
Good on you. Good
Lastly,
on you.
thank you. Lastly, we're going to address our financial needs for mental health as well. Also, just part of being wealthy, if we're worried about our money, we just can't be healthy all the way. So, to this week, we're going to address what to do when your stock price drops. 10 steps to take when either your particular stock that you have or the market as a whole is dropping. So just some points to keep in mind I'll run through for y'all. Number one, stay calm and avoid panic. Emotional reactions can lead to rash decisions, and take a deep breath before acting. Um, I I tell you that, especially on a day like today. One thing, if you watch the stock market closely, you notice on Mondays, the market's always down on Monday. It's just all the buys over the weekend, the after hours trading and stuff. None of that calculates on Saturday and Sunday. So Monday, once it gets calculated in, the market just drops a little bit. It's just what happens on Monday morning. So don't worry, especially. Number two, access the reason for the drop. Investigate if the decline is due to company specific issues, industry trends, or broader market conditions. Prime example: if you had Tesla stock, as soon as Donald Trump made Elon Musk the cabinet member, whatever, that stock dropped. You just got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So there are other things that other than company actions or stock market prices that deal with, just got to think to yourself, what may have made this happen? Just part of life. Number three, review your investment plan. Compare the stock's performance against your long-term goals and risk tolerance. Another thing that I bring up about Monday morning, if the market starts, you got to just look at your long-term plan. Don't trip about today, tomorrow, especially when it comes to stocks. Stocks are not a fast gain to riches. You just got to let that money sit, be patient. Mm. Number four, analyze the fundamentals. Check if the company's fundamentals have changed, if the business is still strong and profitable. Um, An example you can use is when Best Buy started to go outlets. Saying that did change a lot into their price, and they took a big hit based off of the overall change of the company structure. So things like that can affect. Number five, consider the bigger picture. Look at the overall market conditions. If this is part of a market wide downturn, sometimes the entire market is just down, and you can't do anything about it. Number six, this should be done from the beginning, and this also should be done when you're thinking about your stocks. Diversify your portfolio. Always, always, always diversify, diversify, diversify. Use this as a reminder to ensure that you're not overexposed to any single stock or sector. So not only diversifying the stock, but the particular type of stocks that you have. So don't only have entertainment stocks. Don't only have tech stocks. Don't only have blue chip stocks. Mix that up. You know what I'm saying? Get that portfolio look nice and healthy. Consult a financial advisor if you could. If uncertain about what to do, a professional can help guide your decisions. But make sure that financial advisor does have a great understanding of your personal situation. Don't just go to any financial advisor and believe what they have to say. Make sure they have your best interest at heart. Number eight, elevate your options. Decide whether to hold, buy more. If you believe in it, recovery or sell, cut your losses. Number eight, I stick on that one hard, especially when stocks drop. If it's a stock that you've believed in and it's a stock that has done you well so far, when the price drops, I call that discount. That stock is on sale for you. Buy more. More. That's all I'm saying. Number nine, learn from experience. Reflect on what you can do differently next time. Research more, diversify, and set clearer entry exit points. That's one good thing, especially if you go to liquidate a position. Look at the history of that position and what it did for you, and versus what it did as a market overall. If that position helped you reach your goal for that time frame, learn what you did with that position, what that company did, what changes took place. Did they pay dividends? Did they do a stock split? Do they have options? All of these things play into the price of your stock. So learn what happened that either helped you achieve your goal or helped you miss your goal, and learn from that. Do it again. Number 10, stay informed, keep up with the news about the company, its competitors, and the market. One thing I always stay out, not the competitors. I wrote that in the notes, but I really don't even believe that myself. I- Look at the competitors, of course, but one thing you have to look at is when you take Coca-Cola stock, for instance. Coca-Cola cannot make soda without water. So look at the company that Coca-Cola gets their water from. Coca-Cola can't send you a Coke product without a bottle. So look at the company that Coca-Cola gets their bottling from. You got to look at the overall picture of not just the competition, but who is helping that company be successful. Because that company that's helping a company be successful has to somewhat be successful as well. Just a little something on the side to think about for y'all. So I'll open the floor up. Thad, did you happen to have any questions or anything that I could touch on for you with
Well,
what was shared?
I really liked your suggestions there. I will say from my personal experience, I really wish I had some of your wisdom some years back. Um, my best example is when I was trying to learn the cryptos.
Mm,
I bought a decent little amount of various
yeah,
coins, and I got really frustrated. I don't think I totally understood it. You know, I it was just so cheap. I was like, well, it's kind of like penny stocks right now. I'll just grab a
right.
handful. And then I got frustrated because nothing was happening and there were lawsuits going all over the place. And I was like, oh, screw this. I'm going to get out of it. And
Oh,
not 6 months later, some of those coins would have
Ding, ding, ding,
really.
ding, ding, ding,
Oh
ding.
yeah, oh yeah. That I felt that one just a little bit.
Oh man.
And one of the things I've been kind of watching right now, just with my 401k and some of that stuff,
Hmm.
it's always in my head when I don't know if it was Warren Buffett or who said it, but when the market's low, that's the time to really look at investing. If you got $50, you'd be amazed at how much you can pick up. And
Yeah.
then just kind of, I set little reminders on my phone to check stuff like once a month if I know I'm not going to be messing with it for quite a while. Maybe
Yeah.
that I don't know if that's the best practice, but no, I mean, I never thought about the whole Coca-Cola bit. Well, where do they get their water? Where do they get the bottles? I would assume at this point they probably own all of it. But,
Yeah.
Warren Buffett is not doing bad on his Coca-Cola. I
No,
believe
sir.
he's still the majority guy on Coca-Cola, right?
Man, that guy. Whew. See, Warren Buffett, he could make a bad investment good just by making the investment. You know.
Well, Warren Buffett is one of my arguments to why I got rid of soda. The guy is like in his 80s and he drinks 5 sodas a day, and no one's going to argue his brilliance. I mean,
Nobody.
nobody's going to argue that man
No.
when it comes to his picks. So you're like, okay, you guys all said sugar's bad on the brain, but Warren's and
He
he's
said,
doing
it's,
good with his 5 sodas a day.
"Wow." Well, and the doctor made my dad give up Coke. I got to bring that up. Okay, Dad, you want to be like Warren Buffett? Add those Cokes back to the diet, sir.
Yeah, right. Somebody's going to slap us with a comment about how we're endorsing sugar.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I thought this platform was going to thrive, and I just got our next lawsuit right there. Thank you very
Right.
much.
X-nay on the last 30 seconds of this
You're right.
conversation.
I can cut that into, you know what I'm saying? So thank you for joining us today. Nah, but yes, seriously, thank you for joining us today. I had a wonderful time hearing your insights and the information that you have to share. Your personal journey is just amazing. I commend you on so many fronts. For one, being a help to society, two, for continue to thrive through society, dealing with your own things, and three, finding a way to the light, and now being a voice for others to help find their way through that same path. So again, I applaud you on so many different levels, and I thank you a million times for joining us today.
No,
Any last
Doc,
words that you want to share?
yeah, absolutely. Please, I can't emphasize this enough. I cannot tell you how many people I come across. They come up to me at my talks when I'm roaming around doing these speeches and stuff, and they keep telling me that I'm a unique person, and they cannot get sober. They've tried and tried and tried. Guys, I
Mm,
failed more times at getting sober than I can remember. It finally just happened to click for me, and I'm super grateful for that. But I swear on all that's good and holy, if I can get sober, so can you.
mm.
Anybody can do it. It it may take going to a 30-day rehab. It may take getting into a lot of trouble. I don't advise that one, especially legal trouble. That's not the easiest path,
Either.
but it can be done. I promise you. I got guys I hang out with that have over 40 and 50 years of sobriety. Now, if those guys can do it, I can do it. I've watched single moms trying to figure out how to pay the bills and take care of their children, and they found a way to get clean and sober. It can be done, and I truly believe that, and I believe in any of you that are trying to make that journey. And by all means, if I can be of help, if you've heard this and you'd like to see about me coming out and doing a talk, Doc will hopefully be up for sharing my info, and you can reach out
Absolutely.
to me, and I'll be more than happy to come do a talk for you.
Great.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
We
much,
definitely
Doc.
will be sharing that on all the platforms. And we'll be cutting this up also, so we'll be having this on the audio platforms as well, iHeart, Spotify, all those. So and they'll be able to hear this anywhere. I do want to thank everybody for listening and watching Mental Health is Wealth. I ain't read this in a couple weeks, so forgive me. The podcast where we explore the connection between your mental well-being and financial success. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something new. I absolutely did. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to email us at theplaygroundtv@outlook.com. Leave a review, and we would like to hear from you. Appreciate your support. And remember, you are not alone in your journey, and your mental health is your greatest asset. Until next time, stay healthy, stay wealthy, stay tuned. We just got a little quick video here for. I love you. Thank you again, Thad. Man, this is the magic that I think you might remember where I said I don't want to mess with what the stars and everything that's working, but I love it when what the guest says leads us down the path that we're going. So, like, I have just one more thing for some people who have dealt with sickle cell. So we're going to hear from some people who have survived also, not just about sobriety and traumas and things, but there are other ways to survive. So we're going to check out some this quick video to end
Nice.
with sickle cell. But thank you again, Thad, for joining us, man. We'll talk
Thank
to
you,
you
Doc.
soon. Absolutely,
right.
brother.
Thanks.
My whole life changed at 9. I mean, you have to grow up very early because you have to understand that you have to take care of yourself. Not everybody's going to know what sickle cell is. They thought I was too young to actually understand and know what I was going through, but I had to tell them. I know my body and I know what's going on.
Once I got to college, my mom was like, okay, well, you're gonna have to do this, this, and that. I'll help you. If you need help, you can call me, but understand that now is your responsibility. This is your ID. Of course, you're supposed to have it. You drive. Always keep a little bit of extra cash. Keep your health insurance with you, too. She was like, you don't necessarily need to know the plan, but know the number. So if you do need it, you can call them, and they'll usually answer the questions for you.
Starting to apply for jobs, and then you're trying to let them know that you're not going to be able to maybe work a full 9 to 5 every day, every week, because you might get sick one day. So when you tell them that you do have sickle cell, and they're like, well, you're probably not going to be here for a while, and I don't have sickle cell as bad as others, and I guess I'm blessed for that. So there's a lot of times where I could work maybe a long stench or a long period of time, and everybody goes, I don't know if you can handle this or if you can handle that, and I know my limitations, what I can and can't do, so I guess to try to count us out before giving us a full opportunity to prove who we are.
I don't talk all the time, or I'm not outspoken all the time, but I will speak out if I notice something is wrong, and put it into that person's perspective, because if I say something, maybe it'll help the next person.
I was with somebody, we got into a car accident, and the passenger side where I was sitting actually got T-boned really bad. So of course I had to crawl through the driver's side, and the officer got there, and then he was like, oh, do you need an ambulance? I was like, yeah, I do, because I just want to make sure everything is okay. I'm not gonna go into shock or anything like that. And he looked at me and was like, okay, so what's your medical history? So I was giving him everything. And so he was like, so what's sickle cell? So I was like, it's a chronic illness. We go through really severe pains. And he still didn't know. So he ended up calling the ambulance. But at the same time, it took him a while to be like, okay, are you joking, or what is it? Are you being serious? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to play with my life like that. It's a real serious situation that can happen. So he finally got it, and I guess he did his research, because he apologized and everything else. But situations like that, it was intense. Just speaking up and at least telling somebody that you trust, especially your doctor, you have to have trust in your doctor, of course, that you need help. Let them know if you're depressed, because it's a very, very severe thing when you have different illnesses especially sickle cell, with the pain and everything else, you don't always think like somebody's listening to you. So, and I made that mistake. For so many years, I went without telling anybody that I was depressed. And it could have ended up bad, but I was strong enough to actually get help.